Hello friends! Today in our video, we will discuss the latest news that has shocked the global economy. Donald Trump, the former US president, has returned to the world news again with a statement that could greatly affect relations between the US and China. He threatened to impose additional tariffs on Chinese goods in the amount of 50%. But what does this really mean? How could such measures affect world trade and the economies of the two countries? Let's figure it out together! Reasons for the threat and context. To understand how this threat could affect the global economy, let's first remember why Trump is returning to the topic of tariffs again. Let me remind you that during his presidency, he actively waged a trade war with China, imposing tariffs on Chinese goods, which caused significant economic consequences for both the US and China. Today, the situation has changed, but many experts believe that the conflict between the US and China is not over. The reasons for Trump's new statement are related to several factors. First, there is economic pressure on China over intellectual property, trade practices, and unfair treatment for American companies. Second, Trump continues to support his America First policy, which is aimed at protecting U.S. interests and reducing the trade deficit. Trump has been vocal in his criticism of the Chinese economy for what he believes is manipulation of its currency and non-compliance with commercial standards, making Chinese goods cheaper than American goods. These accusations are part of a larger strategy, possible consequences for the U.S. and Chinese economies. Now let's look at what could happen if the threat of 50% tariffs becomes a reality. Let's start with the U.S. economy. If Chinese goods start to become 50% more expensive, this will certainly affect the prices of consumer goods that depend on Chinese imports. We are talking about gadgets, clothing, cars, and many other products. Increasing tariffs will lead to higher prices for these goods for American consumers, which could cause inflation. And while local manufacturers may gain some advantage, they will not be able to fully compensate for the shortage of goods that used to come from China. For China, this move will not be painless either. China will face a decrease in demand for its goods in the United States, which could lead to economic losses and a drop in exports. Many Chinese companies, especially small and medium-sized enterprises, could suffer from a decrease in trade with America. This will also affect the foreign exchange market. If China begins to devalue its currency to compensate for the loss of market, this could lead to lower prices for Chinese goods, but it will also have negative consequences for global financial stability. The global economy. How will this affect other countries? But what about other countries? Let's not forget that the United States and China are the largest economies in the world, and their interactions have global consequences. If Trump imposes new tariffs, it will affect not only these two countries, but many others. For countries that rely on trade with China or the United States, this could lead to economic turmoil. Many developing countries that produce goods for China or the United States will come under pressure. EU countries may also face problems as they will be forced to adapt their trade strategies and revise economic agreements. In addition, global companies that produce in China or the United States may change their production chains, redirecting them to other countries such as Vietnam, India, or Mexico. This will lead to a redistribution of world trade, which will certainly affect the cost of goods and the global economy as a whole. Political situation and external influences. We should not forget about the political consequences. Trump's threats to China are not only economic pressure, they are also a signal to other countries and world leaders that the United States will continue to actively fight for its economic interests. American foreign policy will continue to isolate and protect national interests, which calls into question long-standing trade agreements and international alliances. Trump can also count on the support of a part of the American electorate, who see such measures as a way to bring jobs back to the country and reduce dependence on China. However, will such measures work effectively in the long term? And how will international organizations react? These remain important questions. Forecasts and possible scenarios. What forecasts do experts give on this matter? First of all, if tariffs are actually introduced, it is expected that in the short term, this will cause an increase in prices in the U.S. and a decrease in demand for Chinese goods. However, in the long term, more serious economic consequences may arise. Some economists suggest that this could lead to an even greater division of the global economy into blocks: the United States, China, and other emerging markets. In this case, new trade alliances and agreements could change the very structure of global trade. Conclusion. As we can see, Trump's threat to China with new tariffs is not just a political game, but an important signal for the entire global economy. We will follow the developments and continue to keep you informed. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think will happen to the global economy if these tariffs are introduced? Thank you for your attention. See you soon.